Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather. Today I'm meteorologist Al Peterlin. I'd like to talk about the weather health stresses for August 22nd, 2026. We do keep additional graphics at tpatw.com. We maintain a storefront on Amazon. Looking at the surface map for the 22nd, you can see that for the first time in quite a while, we do have a high pressure center trying to push down the plains. That's relatively significant for this time of year. We have a new bubble low here in Washington, and that'll keep some unsettled weather across the Intermountain West, the Rockies, and all the way down into the Four Corners, where we have the monsoon pushing up against this frontal area, keeping the west a little wet. Notice the front covers all the way through the south, but becomes active again as it moves from Atlanta back up to Baltimore and all the way up to Bangor, with a lot of unsettled weather back here across the lakes, down the middle Atlantic states, and then the eastern seaboard itself into Florida. Looking at our vitality index, which is just a measure of the individual weather elements that'll have some impact on human health, and you can see we have a lot of spotty activity up here throughout the Intermountain West, and a very interesting little area of activity up in the Pacific Northwest, western Washington, Oregon, down even into Northern California. A lot of more activity down here in Texas from really the Panhandle down to Austin. Little bit of unsettled weather right here in Nebraska, especially along the Kansas border. Something going on, and I think it's mostly instability up here across Iowa. It's been the center of a lot of rain. And then we have something still going on along the Gulf. Looking at pressure change, the first time we've seen some pressure change in about a week. We have a little bit of falling pressure here up in northern Montana, and a little bit of falling pressure here stretching across northeastern Ohio, northern Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and along the Canadian border with all the Canadian cities from Windsor up to Ottawa. Looking at the change in temperatures, and you'll note we're still keeping very strong heat across almost all of the south, but we do have a bubble of heat here up in Nebraska and Kansas, right along that border area. Note we are finally seeing some falling temperatures here in the eastern mountains, but again, we're talking about showers and thunder showers. The south, very interesting also, where we have some bubble heat right here along the Gulf, and a little bit of cooling right here in that area of Texas, once again from the Panhandle down to Austin. Looking at the change in dew point temperatures, you see we're trying to increase dew point temperatures here in the northwest. And as you go to the vapor pressure map, you can see that it is an increase in vapor pressure, really from western Washington across down into Colorado. And note that line of activity right here through North Texas. And then we're increasing the vapor pressure here again in the northeast. Lifted index or instability, again concentrating right up here in the Iowa, northern Missouri, Illinois area, an area of the country that's been hit for quite a while, and then we always have that activity here along the Gulf. Looking at the change in oxygen availability, and the map is a little different than it had been. Note we have significant migraine stresses here across Vancouver into western Washington, across Oregon, and then very significant across Idaho, down into northern Utah, and across all the way into western Colorado, a little bit here in northeastern Utah. Note we also have one small area of migraine stresses here in north central Arizona. We also have a significant area of migraine risk, and once again, right back to that Texas Panhandle across Dallas to Austin. Note we have a risk of migraine across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. And of course, then switching over to asthma and arthritis, we have asthma and arthritis stresses here in western Arizona. We have that asthma and arthritis stresses across Nebraska, northern Kansas. We have a very interesting area of asthma and arthritis here across easternmost Louisiana through the toe and into southern Mississippi. We also have a little bit of asthma and arthritis stresses from Atlanta up across South Carolina, but then getting significant again as we get up to the Northeast, as we pick up from Pennsylvania all the way up to northernmost areas of western Maine and all of those Canadian cities again from Windsor to Ottawa. Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather. Comments are appreciated. If you hurt, tell us where you're located.